Yeah, I was surprised how many times we were actually able to fly. I thought there would be many more days where it was grounded and many more sites that we would abandon. But they actually got quite a number of flights in, both on the Puma side and the quadcopter. So it's a good first step. It would be a useful tool to augment what we're currently doing, particularly some situations where some high-resolution imagery, local imagery is necessary.
So this was a 3-week trip.
We started March 4th in Adak.
We then sailed west all the way around Attu, which was the furthest west island in the Aleutian chain that's U.S. territory. Then from Attu, we sailed east all the way back past Adak and another several days further east back to Dutch Harbor in Unalaska.
Just ended today here in Dutch Harbor on the 25th.
So over this 3-week period, we sailed past essentially all the Aleutian islands.
The primary objective of what we were doing was to look at the food habits of sea lions in the winter in the Aleutians. It was a grant funded by the Pacific Research Board to look at the differences in diet and how they might relate to differences in population trend along the Aleutian chain.
So something's going on in the western Aleutians. These sea lions are leaving that area or dying. The biologists aren't sure what. And so it's really hard to get data. It's really hard to get pictures of the animals. The goal was to see if you could fly unmanned aircraft. And so we brought 2 different systems with us to evaluate if these aircraft could help track the animals, observe the animals, help count the animals, look for branded animals, look for tagged animals, try to see if you could get imagery that would help understand what's going on with the animal as they're leaving this part of their habitat. They're basically abandoning the western Aleutian portion of their habitat, but meanwhile in Russia and on southeast Alaska, the animals are actually increasing in population. So while we were out there, we were just trying to help take aerial photographs in places that you could not climb up on the hills to look at the animals, looking for just quantities of animals, the health conditions of the animals to the extent you could see it from a photograph, branded animals, identify how many pups versus, mothers with pups and adults, males, things like that.
The typical routine for us was to get to a site. We would assess whether, we were going to go first on land or they would fly it. And once the decision was made to, okay, we're going to fly from the boat, Greg was typically in the air within about 20 minutes.
Particularly with the Scout, we would go do our flight and come back and show them the pictures of the animals before they even got their clothes, all their gear assembled to go ashore. And so we'd give them a quick 2-minute look over my shoulder at the photographs we just took of the animals before they even got in the boat. And so that helped them out sometimes when they would actually know what they were getting into before they even left to go. With these unmanned planes, we were able to demonstrate that you could fly just over 50 feet in altitude and the animals still wouldn't see or hear you.
I was surprised how low you could actually fly just offshore the animals and they were completely oblivious to its existence. I thought they'd be a little more attentive to it because I've seen them react to birds and other things. And if the quadricopter was moving slightly offshore in about the same speed as a bird, they didn't even know it was there. And it was pretty much inaudible.
Overall, the Puma was less of a risk. The Puma had been designed for maritime operations, has been fielded by the military in maritime environments. Did verify, though, that the camera, at the altitudes we were comfortably able to fly the aircraft, the camera was a bit limited. The resolution of the Puma camera is about the same as it is on the Scout, and it even has a thermal camera on board. So the thermal camera and be able to switch back and forth between the thermal infrared and the visible was really nice. But the Puma, we couldn't comfortably fly it under 200 feet in altitude, and at that altitude, the resolution of the images just weren't adequate.
We sat on the cliff sides as you guys flew over multiple times, and I only remember hearing it once, and even then it was just sort of this buzz.
And then you could actually monitor their behavior, not just get numbers, but you also look at their behavior and their actions, whatever they're doing on the island.
That was one, I think, really good outcome, particularly for the permitting, and have this tool be in our toolkit from now on.
Where the Puma shined was it was very rugged, very, very durable. We were never rushed for time. Most of these missions could be done in 30 to 45 minutes, and the Puma can easily fly 2 hours. On the Scout, we've been more and more impressed with it the more we've flown it, but it only flies 20 minutes, at maximum 25 minutes perhaps. And so in that time frame, if you want to fly out from the boat out a mile to look at the animals, and if you got to fly a mile back to the ship, and you're only going 30 miles an hour at top speed, that doesn't give you a lot of time to spend over and actually surveying the animals. So the Puma didn't take as much energy to fly and carried a bigger battery. The Scout carried as big a battery as it could, and it was taking a lot more power to fly. For its size, it was taking a lot more power to fly. And it just basically burned batteries faster.
I'm going to turn this into a carrier. This is the first time that we've flown drunk off the Norseman, and it's been an interesting experience, and we've seen it in application in a fairly difficult environment. It seems to have worked out very well. I think it was supplemented the information and aided the work of the biologists.
Like we were saying, I don't think it replaces the big region-wide aerial surveys that we're currently doing with manned aircraft, but as a tool to help with brand resites, I could see that helping quite a bit, particularly for complicated sites that are difficult to look at from just from the water, or might be even inaccessible from land.
Even in the world of tightening budgets, maybe people are looking at other ways to get their data that don't cost as much as the traditional ways, and this is new technology that looks pretty promising for that.